Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode uh, 595 of the Orange Pill Investor. And I don't know. I really kill me sometimes. I get a little chuckle out of some of the music that I pick. What's up, Buffalo? What's up, Nick? So this won't be a long one. Sometimes I get off on my tangents and go for like half an hour on this shit. But I'm just gonna quickly take a look at this. This is a video. This guy did like a speed paint of the map. It started with nothing, and he just colored in all the territories from 1984. And I was listening to some podcast about the end of the world, aka World War III, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like 1984 could actually come true as far as the regional powers that they predicted. And so, if you look at this, you got Ingsoc, which was like the socialist takeover of the West, and apparently, the United States stops being the global dominant power and, kind of retreats from Europe and the Middle East. And it looks like even their influence in Japan and Korea over here. And they maintain regional control over North and South America. I don't know. I don't know why South Africa would be in here. Really don't give a shit. But, and then of course, Australia, which is pretty aligned with the West. And of course, this is a 360 map. So this is actually, closer to this than it appears here, left or right. So if, how would this happen, right? So if the United States loses the war in the Middle East, which is basically inevitable, um, I mean, I guess they could just nuke the whole thing into glass or something if they literally just said, fuck it, we don't care what the world thinks. It's not like there's no history of of them atomizing people. So if anybody's gonna do it, I guess it would be the country with a history. But um, given Trump's military strategy, he'd probably put boots on the ground first and then nuke it. Just nuke our boys, since it would be impossible to rescue them if we got like, I don't know, if we got a 500,000 troops inside fucking Iran. Good luck getting them back out. So at that point, he'd probably just. That's what we did with our C-130s, right? That we lost rescuing. If you believe that we went in there to rescue one guy, um, really doesn't matter if you believe that or if we went over there to steal uranium. But apparently we couldn't get our C-130s back out, so we just bombed them so the enemy couldn't have them. Uh, that would just be par for the course if we stranded a million fucking troops on the ground in Iran and then just said fuck it and nuked the whole place. Reminds me a little bit of Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Like some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But yeah, so I'm sorry. So this isn't about predicting what actually will happen. This is kind of like, can current events be molded to fit this book? Like if I really wanted to just force the issue. So let's say we lose the war in the Middle East. We are basically bankrupt and we have to kind of just retreat to the Monroe Doctrine. So, okay, Ingsoc makes sense. We got this worked out. And Russia has already made a play for Ukraine. And even though I think the argument that they were provoked into doing this by NATO and by NATO expansion makes sense. Um, it almost kind of looks like the U.S. would be like, okay, fuck it, we're gonna retreat to our region, and then once that happens, Russia's like, oh, okay, well, NATO ain't shit, so I'm just gonna take whatever I can, and then we've got this one is I think is kind of the most interesting is, and this is Eurasia here from the book, but we've got West Asia, which is Japan and China. And just looking at this, you'd be like, oh, well, obviously China is taking this over. But like, don't count out the Japanese. Um, maybe this time, they lost World War II. Maybe this time they come out on top. It wouldn't surprise me. I was actually thinking about a kind of an interesting idea for a fiction novel. I have a lot of ideas and never do anything with them. So if anybody wants to write the book, have at it. But it would be something along the lines of, Japan and China fighting over regional dominance. And all of the countries in the world, I think, except Israel, are suffering from not having enough children. And so what would happen in Japan if they were in a battle with China for dominance over East Asia, but there's like this insane aging population, right? You've got like tons and tons of 80 and 90 and 100-year-olds. Well, if dive bombing American Navy ships with you know fighter pilots just dive bombing ships and committing suicide is any indication of the level of dedication that Japan is capable of. uh what if like millions of elderly just committed seppuku? I think that's the Japanese word for suicide, right? um or is it, which one is the one, is Harry Carey specifically by sword or something, or which one? Anyway, I should have done a little bit of research for the episode. But what if they just, all the elder people just sacrificed themselves for the younger generation, and then Japan was able to mount some, turn all of their resources towards the war and, fighting age men. That would be a nice little plot twist, I think. So, maybe Japan is running the show here, maybe it's China, or maybe this is just some kind of loose alliance. Maybe they go to war and then fucking hug it out after. I don't know how this could all work, but 1984 seems kind of viable. And then this is the disputed area. It's been so long since I read the book, I didn't really remember what was happening in the Middle East. In my head, I imagined the Middle East being in Eurasia for some reason. It just kind of made sense. But depending on who wins in the Middle East, either Israel or the Gulf Coast um, countries, there could be like this dominant regional power, and maybe they just keep to themselves and avoid this three-way rock scissors paper battle that got going on everywhere else. And then Africa, there's just constant war amongst themselves down here anyway. They probably don't need to be involved in this other bullshit. So yeah, this could totally play out. um United States gets bankrupted, has to evacuate. There's a power vacuum. Russia swells and expands, which would be hilarious because NATO's fear um, of Russian expansion, which seemed ridiculous, would actually come to pass. That would be fucking hilarious. And then, you know, whoever wins between Japan and China to control East Asia, this shit could totally play out. Now, I think Orwell probably underestimates India, or like India almost seems like it could be a player in the future. I got at least 1 billion people, right? But maybe they're smart enough to stay out of this shit. That would be an interesting development as well. So yeah, I could totally see this being a fairly accurate map in like 20 years. And I just thought it was funny. But all right. So that was, I didn't really even mean to talk about this long, but I thought it was interesting. Voyager says 1984 was a fun year. It actually was. I was searching for songs for 1984, and then I was like, wait a minute. Hopefully, they're not going to give me songs from 1984. But AI actually knew what I was looking for. They figured me out pretty good. Johnny, what's up, man? Did you ever read Man in a High Castle about Nazis in Japan splitting up USA after winning World War II? I saw one or two episodes. Um, my brother-in-law and I think he was pretty into it. I don't remember if my wife watched that one or not. Did they was that one of the ones that got kind of ruined by COVID? I can't remember if that one got canceled or did they actually finish that story. Um yeah, the funny thing is like even if Japan and Germany did win World War II, they still wouldn't have they still wouldn't have been able to expand. Like Japan wouldn't have been able to cross the entire Pacific Ocean and dominate the United States. Like we've got the Rocky Mountains, we've got a giant ass ocean, we've got another giant ass ocean, and tons of resources. Like they might have been able to control all of the Pacific islands. Like maybe we lose Hawaii. But yeah, I mean, it was probably good fun. Um, Probably good fiction. But as far as predictive, I think 1984 is could be pretty spot on. Now it's funny, even in the dystopian fiction genre, apparently they like to have hip hop West Coast, East Coast, West Coast beef because Brave New World was that Huxley? Anyway, when Orwell came out with 1984, Huxley supposedly sent him a message, and it was like, great job on the book, but my book's more accurate. And that's just kind of funny. And I think Huxley had connections to some deep state stuff. Some of his family was CIA or something like that. I hope I'm not misremembering that, and uh, and not putting enough respect on Huxley's name there, but he he probably was pretty accurate himself. And if you look at the structure from Brave New World, it's like, okay, we've got the elites, which, obviously they're going to be the alphas at the top. And then they had different, like, levels of subhumans that would either be doing the work for them, and they had them all, like, drugged up and kept docile and happy. And it reminded me a little bit, I think it was Altman. Yeah, I think it was Altman who was saying that they're going to start renting intelligence like a utility, like just like you pay your gas and electric, and people will actually be able to rent AI intelligence. And so, depending on how much money you have, will determine how fucking dumb you're going to be. And that just seems like a kind of a perfect transition into Brave New World, right? Depending on your caste, you get slotted into, okay, here's the amount of AI intelligence we're going to hook up into your brain, and you can go do the manual labor, or you can be allowed to be somewhat of an intellectual or whatever. But of course, all of this, they wrote these novels before Bitcoin was real. And I've been binging every single episode of Professor Jang on his predictive history series. And I think like the main thing that he doesn't have dialed in is the effect of Bitcoin on the world and the networks that are going to be forming. So that's a missing piece that I think he overlooks. He might be right. He basically is like, no, Bitcoin's created by DARPA. It's a scam or whatever. And he might be right, even that it was created by DARPA. But how often do they try to control something and then they just fuck it up and it gets out of hand, right? Like bureaucrats screw up everything. So it wouldn't really surprise me if they tried to create a control mechanism and accidentally liberated it with Bitcoin. I think they did the same thing with LSD. They were trying to do mind control, and then a bunch of hippies just fucking saw into the secrets of the universe and um, expanded their minds instead of being controlled potentially. So it wouldn't surprise me if the law of unintended consequences kicked in and they and ended up accidentally liberating the world, trying to control it. So how would Bitcoin change all of this? Um, it might not. It's like this map could look exactly as it does here, but there could be a global network of Bitcoiners that are like living sovereign lives, almost kind of in secret somehow. Jeff Booth's been investing, or his company Ego Death has been investing in Fediment, which I don't know if it's been perfected yet, but it's supposed to allow you to like transact in secret. Your federation of I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works, but supposedly your federation would, in your network, like they don't even know each other. So for them to join forces and rug you would be impossible because they wouldn't even know how to join forces against you. And it's supposed to be a tool to allow people to transact, even in a totalitarian state like China, which is pretty much has their population on lockdown. So maybe there will be this invisible layer of Bitcoin sovereign individuals, pockets of liberty and freedom here, and people transacting amongst each other. And when I went to the Bitcoin Veterans Conference in Nashville last year, it was kind of eye opening because being in the Bitcoin treasury space, um, sometimes I wonder if we haven't really even earned the mockery of being called suit coiners, because even though when I went there were a couple of people that I was like, okay, they're on the wrong side of such and such issue. But there were guys that were like using some of their decentralized communication tech to help with was the hurricanes or the flooding or whatever that was happening last year, the year before. And what was that app called? It was called BitChat, I think, where people can communicate on like a decentralized local chat network. And I would assume that can be expanded. They were There were some people that were using Meshtastic, which is like a decentralized communication. I think it's using radio. Um, there's a group. These guys weren't affiliated with the Bitcoin Veterans Conference, but there's a group called S2 Underground. They've got a bunch of videos that has a decentralized communication that's similar to Meshtastic. It does use radio, but it's called the GhostNet. And so there's all of these like pretty impressive things happening around Bitcoiners that's going to it's going to provide people options to hopefully survive this type of shit if it does come to light, or come to life, I mean. So yeah, they're going to try this. They're definitely going to try. I don't know if they're going to be successful. Hopefully Bitcoin starts to dominate and starts to defang the the control structures. And even if the map does look like this, maybe it won't be uh, global panopticon, worst case scenario. So stack some sats, put it in cold storage. Maybe the southern tip of South America will be safe. I don't know. It's just Madagascar over here. Can't imagine anybody gives a shit about Madagascar. Maybe that's where I'll put my citadel. Just read the book. TV show was kind of shite. Okay, that's usually the way it works. Okay, noted. I will. I'll put that on my TBR. Let's see. Whoa, the new TFTC had an interview with a forensic accountant. He paints the picture that insurance is about to blow up, seriously leveraged through offshore and private equity. Yeah, I think it was Dave Collum was on BTC sessions with Simon Dixon, I think, and he was saying private equity is um, what do they call them? A cottage industry of morons. He's basically predicting that shit's gonna blow up, and it really wouldn't surprise me because from the way that he described it, it's just like a bunch of people saying, "Hey, loan us money. We're good for it. Here's all the assets that we have." But then they just value their own assets, and even if it's not really worth what they're saying it's worth, and even if the value of those assets can just go up in smoke overnight. So the entire private equity market seems ready to completely just blow up, which would start a run for the exits. I think somebody posted something like record exit requests for private equity. Somebody posted it on X. And so they're all heading for the door. And where are they going to go? The only thing that's worth a shit in the entire um, sector is Stretch and SETA and the other preferreds. It's actually backed by real money. It's not just backed by rehypothecated air. Um, so yeah, there could just be a stampede for a fixed equity product that actually doesn't suck. Sets us up very well if all these annuity and insurance policy holders are looking for somewhere to put their money for yield. Yeah, you read my mind. It's likely that the intelligence communities are reading books like this to Simmons Simmons up. Eh, Remind me what that means. Simmons up their ideas for world government. I think that probably Crater did a dive into DARPA FUD on BTC. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely FUD, but it could also be true, and I really just don't give a shit. The code is the code's open source, so I'm not terribly worried about it. All right. With all that being said, I think that was a fun little side quest. Oh, I did figure out what was wrong with these errors that was coming up. So anytime my computer or my phone asks me, can I give you notifications? I always just say no. I block them. Apparently, at least using at this website, I had um, notifications off, and that was the problem. Because even when I started trading on um, Brave, it was working, but then when I loaded it up today, it said, do you want to allow notifications for Tasty Trade on Brave? And I said, oh, no, of course not. I don't want fucking notifications. Notifications piss me off. And it immediately started screwing up. So I was like, all right, that was the cause of it. And so now it works. Now I can go back to trading. I don't even know if I should go back to trading on Chrome, but I'm going to do it. It's just easier for me to do this all in one place. So let's do it. All right, so this has only been on for one day. This is my Tesla covered call. It's, but Tesla's not even shitting the bed. Like, why? Oh, I'm sorry. This is only a 1 DTE. I was thinking this is a 45 DTE. I'm like, why the hell did the value of this just go to almost a zero? So this is actually not as bad as I thought. So a buck 90 for one trading day, right? So from today until tomorrow, day and a half of trading, that would be about 150 bucks prorated for one day. Multiply that times 5. That's 750 bucks for the week. That's actually a ton of premium still left here. So even though it seems like, oh, there's not much left compared to the 480 I sold it for, just for one more trading day, this is a pretty good amount of premium here. So I will do nothing and we'll see, what we close out at. Same here, plenty of extrinsic value, plenty of time left. So I will do nothing and Cypher. Added this position yesterday, rolled this one 2 days ago. This one, it's got plenty of extrinsic. It's got plenty of time left. It's only been on, well, it's been on for 15 days. Could be ready, but it's not. Still got a decent amount of extrinsic left. So we will do nothing with Cypher. Same here. This covered calls are in the money. And depending, I guess, what happens in Iran, whether we decide to taco the taco or reverse Uno or whatever 44 double D chess move comes next, the market will either go up or down or whatever. But I'm going to continue to just be extremely aggressive until this last little bit is done for. And then I don't know if I'm going to have to make another withdrawal. So if I usually make my withdrawals in like 5K increments, and then I just pay bills, pay the mortgage, pay the credit card off, pay this, pay that. And so if I withdraw another $5,000 to pay bills, then this is going to jump from, I'm like so close to getting rid of this, but it's going to jump up to like 7 as soon as I make the next withdrawal. I might have enough in the checking account to get me through to the first of the month. We'll see. Spent some money last week in Denver on our vacation. So I might be able to kick the can down the road until next month. But just keep in mind, like me just selling these very aggressive covered calls at the money weekly, hardly no upside whatsoever. This is not me betting or like thinking that I know what strategy or Bitcoin is going to do. I'm choosing this position because it solves my goal, which is just taking a shit ton of guaranteed premiums up front and chipping away at this margin use. This isn't me looking at the chart and saying, oh yeah, here's support, here's resistance, or looking at the heat map and, oh, there's leverage here and the covered call ETFs, max pain is at this strike. I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm choosing, for me personally, I'm just choosing the option that solves my problem. It's really not technically based at all. It seems like astrology for men, honestly, technical analysis. I think there's some extreme versions, like when something, was it the Bollinger Bands or something? Like if something is like really, really, really extremely oversold, maybe it's a buying opportunity. But I haven't bothered to even learn any of that shit. I have no idea if it's effective. I haven't needed any of those tools. I haven't needed to waste my time learning any of that shit really, other than just kind of like a basic understanding that other people are using them. So understanding that they exist and understanding that the market is trying to read the tea leaves. Like if I wanted to out trade them, I'd have to learn the tea leaves better than them, and that just doesn't appeal to me at all. But you should at least be aware that people are looking at the volume and just all of this different shit, and you just want to make sure that you're not ignoring the psychology that other people are using in the market, I suppose. All right, so plenty of extrinsic here. We'll see if we close at 130 or if we continue to pump. Is like Bitcoin doing anything today? Yeah, nice little. Guess we found a little bit of support at 17, or we're trying to like ratchet our way up. Higher highs and higher lows is always a good sign. I mean, I guess we've been clawing our way back from February 5th when we hit 60. I mean, this isn't like the most bullish chart in the world, but you got to expect after you find support that you're going to have to consolidate, trade sideways before we make another move. Just do we move up or down? Power Law says we're like undervalued. I think the cost of production charts say that Bitcoin is a pretty good deal right now. There's a ton of big miners, I think, losing money every time they mine Bitcoin. I think their cost of productions on some of the most poorly run companies is probably like 100K. Bob Burnett said that well-run companies are probably have like a 50K cost of production, if I remember correctly. So the doom and gloom in that area is not as bad for some of the more well-run companies. So if you average the two between 50 and 100, you get 75. So maybe that's exactly where we're supposed to be right now. Somebody was asking in the stream last night if strategy is buying more than the miners can mine, then like who the fuck is selling? And the answer is the OGs. They've been sitting and diamond handsing since Bitcoin was like $10 a coin or something, and they've got thousands of them. And maybe they've found some kind of tax haven and they're selling, or maybe they're just paying the taxes. I don't fucking know what they're doing. But as far as I can tell, that's the only explanation, because institutions are accumulating, strategies accumulating, and OGs are taking their well-earned profits. You could, if you wanted to believe this guy that I talked to at, was it Strategy World or the Bitcoin Conference? I think it was Strategy World 2 years ago. There was a guy who claimed to be an OG and no other OGs, and he was saying that sometimes they'll just put a sell wall up, like to make sure that Bitcoin doesn't go up too fast. You could say, either they're just being self-interested in taking profits, or he claimed that some of them really just don't want Bitcoin to take off too fast and cause too much harm by disrupting too quickly, and also to allow more plebs to accumulate at lower prices. Whether that much altruism is true or not, I don't know, but it was the first time I had ever heard anything like that. We were just hanging around at the after party in the hotel, and that's what some guy claimed. He was an interesting dude, but regardless of when any of that shit is true, it's whatever their reasons are, it's got to be OGs just selling and taking profits here. Whether it's just to take profits for the sake of profits, or whether they have some kind of master plan, some kind of coordinated sell wall of price manipulation. I don't know. I like conspiracy theories, but I don't know if that one makes too much sense. That was what the guy said. It kind of seems like they'll want to pump the market for the midterms, so maybe we could get some movement closer to the election. Or maybe Trump just doesn't give a fuck because he knows he's already ruined the midterms for the Republicans, and there's just no hope. I'm not really sure, but that's one catalyst. We've got the end of the spam war that we will find out whether BIP 110 activates end of September. So it wouldn't surprise me if that activates. And regardless of whether it does, we will know whether spam wins or loses. And the market likes certainty. I'm not even sure that the market really cares who wins that war. I personally care, and I'm signaling for BIP 110. I was actually going to get some mining rigs for myself, but Matthew Crider's got a couple of episodes where he describes you can actually rent some hash power and you can signal for BIP 110, which I really like the idea of that. I don't have to keep the miner on my property. I don't have to deal with the annoyance, the sound pollution. I think, you don't really get the best prices, but it's non KYC. So you should always be paying a premium for non KYC anyway. So that seems like a fun idea. When it gets closer to activation, maybe I'll throw some hash power. I'll buy some hash power and make sure that the templates are signaling for BIP 110. That'll be kind of fun. All right, Dudeface says, I meant intelligence officially are likely reading everything, riffing on ideas in books, movies, YouTube to create new fuckery, leading to more government control always possible. Meanwhile, in Iran, it's something like 6K per coin mining costs, or was. No shit. That's before the destruction. Supposedly, they're taking Bitcoin as toll, as toll fee, and settling in gold. This tweet made me laugh today. Crazy that Bitcoin is now being used to prevent boating accidents. Oh man, I saw that one too. That was fucking gold. I lost my Bitcoin in a mining accident, but I used my Bitcoin to prevent my boat from being sunk. That was too good, too perfect. All right, so that's the purpose behind the strike and days to expiration selection. Has nothing to do with price predictions or the chart. It's just I need to generate as much premium as humanly possible until my margin use is under control. And then I can start stacking my degenerate 1080s again. And, potentially rolling these out for some upside to capture in case strategy goes on a tear. Or I could continue just plowing, getting $400 a week times 10 is $4,000 a week. I don't spend that much in a month, and just taking the leftovers and paying my bills, but also stacking more of these or stacking more performance cover calls, with the extra premium. That is another option. All right, the IRA. Oops. Iron. Plenty of time, plenty of extrinsic. Strive, plenty of extrinsic. 1 day left. We'll see if we close above 10 or whether I take assignment on some Strive shares. Cypher, it's half of what I sold it for, but if I roll this out just 1 week, I'm not sure I could get that much of a credit. I guess I could roll the strikes up, but again, that May 22nd was that shitty liquidity day. So 50 cent wide. I could roll to the 14. Yeah, 50 cent wide bid ask spreads is like annoying. But let's see. Why? Oh, so they're not giving me. Oh, my maintenance excess is only $8. So this would reduce. Oh, because I'm rolling this up my buying power effect is going up. So I would probably only be able to roll this up to the, or not really even roll up, but just roll to the same strike. Yeah. Interesting. So in order to make that roll, I would either have to continue to roll to the 13 because I have no, this maintenance excess is my actual buying power. So I wouldn't have enough buying power to roll this up to the 14 unless I take off another position. So I could take off this position. That would probably do it. Interesting. The holding this for another week just to get 1% doesn't like. Oh, let me share. I forgot to reshare with no audio. All right. Wait, let me check my cost basis first. What did I buy this thing for? Yeah, I literally bought this thing for 100, and I'm selling it for 100. Oh, but I paid a penny. I paid a penny in fees. Oh no, I lost a penny. All right, so let's try this again. Roll. I'm gonna roll up to 14. A little bit of a credit. Oh, I still don't have enough. Oh, because I have. Damn, I only have 100 in maintenance excess. Okay, so that didn't do me any good. Can I roll to the 1350? Yes. Yeah, this is just going to piss me off. The liquidity is so bad, I keep having to roll this down. Nope, cancel. I can't take it. All right, so I'll hold this for another week or two and then roll out, hopefully, to a, maybe I'll have to hold this until, what's the liquidity on the 29th? That still sucks. Why is it so bad? Maybe because it's a weekly and not a monthly. Well, this is it's like 3 weeks before this one's ready. Yeah, liquidity is a pain in the ass with these things sometimes, especially the cheap stocks. All right, so we'll just continue to hold. Same, continue to hold. Same. And same. So I guess I sold my stretch for no reason. Buy back. But I wonder if this is gonna be funny. If I take the default, let's see if I fill at 101 penny. Or do they fill me at 100? My trade price is a penny over. Man, I got ripped off. All right, if I hold this for another week, I'll get paid like $1 and whatever. All right, this account, I've got 1,300 in maintenance excess, but I also have 45 stretch that I'm basically holding as my dry powder, as my cash in case I were to get assigned on my Wolf or my Cypher. Do I have cash secured puts here? Yes. So most of these are up. So I wouldn't really want to necessarily add any cash secured puts on an up day unless I'm rolling for a credit, which I could do here and also here. But again, I've had so much frustration trying to roll out to 43 DTE because the liquidity sucks ass that I'm inclined to just wait. I'm just going to wait another week for this to get down into the 20 something day range. I'm not going to frustrate myself. If anything was down today, that would be interesting. So Strive is down 1%. Hmm. Let's see what the liquidity on Strive is. It's usually not that great either. That's like yeah, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's also not that great. Okay, that was a decent fill. All right, it's saying 1,000 in cash. Let's see if I can get 5 more. Okay. That will work. So some of the other cash secured put sellers, my brothers and sisters in Vol, have also figured out that if you're selling cash secured puts in a margin account, it's not counting the entire amount against you, and so there's like cash left over and buying power left over, but you don't want to take too many positions because like it's just kind of smoke and mirrors. They're saying, oh, we'll let you trade more than your account's actually worth. And so you do want to leave some cash available for this eventuality, but cash is trash, right? Cash is a melting ice cube. So if you're making whatever 30% profits a year selling cash secured puts, if you just stack your cash as a preferred, and as long as it remains stable, it'll act like cash, then you can tack on an extra 10% on top of your gains. So I can't remember who was posting about it within the last week, but they were like 10 Delta cash secured puts, hold stretch instead of cash, you know, get an extra 10% on top of whatever your gains were. I think he was saying it was like 45% returns or something. I think it was cash secured puts in strategy, if I remember correctly. I didn't double check the work, but the principle makes sense to me. Yeah, I can't even afford it in this account. But if I could, I'd be selling the 110 strike, which means I should have 11 grand in cash. But because of margin, they're going to only require me to have half that. Then you take the other 6,600 bucks and buy 66 shares of stretch or SATA. Well, you can't really do SATA because their margin doesn't work. I mean, you could use SATA, but it's gonna be a less favorable, at least in my account for now. It's a less favorable margin situation. They're not really giving you any margin credit here. I don't know if that's exchange. Maybe I'll ask. Maybe, you know what? I'm gonna probably ask the chat support with Tasty Trade why SATA doesn't have a margin benefit. All right, the 5K account. Nothing to do but sit on these Strive calls till tomorrow. Sold the Cypher. Wasn't terribly aggressive, but maybe it was. I think Cypher was under, was it 12 or 13 on Monday? Let's see, 7th should have been the 6th. Yeah, I guess I was pretty aggressive with this. No upside. No biggie. But that's the trade-off. So I took a bunch of premium. 41 cents premium on a $13 stock was like 3% returns. So I was willing to accept 3% returns, sacrifice all the upside. And so this should be expected that I'm missing out on a couple $100 of upside here. I could have chosen a less aggressive strike, but I did not. Same thing here. These two I trade with my brother-in-law. We are losing this trade. Wow, we're already in the money on that one. And when I say losing, I think my brother-in-law's cost basis on this thing was like $12 a share. So even if he gets called away at 16, he's making out pretty well. He's fine. Don't shed any tears for him. And then we'll, if this does get called away, we'll just go back to step one of the wheel and sell a cash secured put, 20% out of the money, or whatever. The Riot put we sold for 75. It's worth 34. We could roll this at any time, but I don't know if he's going to be able to roll to Riot because he might not have enough buying power. So in that case, we will either do Strive, which is in his price range, or I think CLSK is still cheap. Anybody else aware of any mining stocks that are in the $10 range? So this is a possibility. If I was going to decide between ASST and CLSK, and I was ignoring the fact that one is a Bitcoin treasury company and the other one is a miner, if the only thing that I care about is the premiums, the fact that they're both trading at 10 is pretty nice because it's very easy to do an apples to apples comparison. So with CLSK, I'd have to put up $1,000 for the cash secured put. I get paid 11 cents for tomorrow. In this case, I got to put up $1,000, but I can get twice the premium. So given the choice, I would probably sell this one. Now you have to look at the price. It's just over $10, so that's why this premium is higher. If Strive just drops a nickel, you're already in the money, and you would have to take assignment here. Whereas CLSK can drop 39 cents and still avoid assignment. But if all you care about is the premium that you can collect based on the collateral that you have to put up, this is what I generally look at. Going out to next week, Strive is 61 cents versus CLSK 39 cents. So if I'm being aggressive on the premium, I would choose Strive in this scenario. It could be the other way. If Strive was trading at 10.40 and CLSK was trading at 10.05, my decision might be the complete reverse. It probably gets less pronounced out to 45 days. Let's go to the $8 strikes. I can get 60 with Strive and 34. Actually, it's not. It's just as pronounced. Interesting. Is that because of the, okay, so the liquidity sucks here. You might be able to get a sell at 34. Liquidity also sucks here, but there's a ton more bids and asks in the thousands. There's only one volume and one open interest. CLSK, there's no volume and 19 open interest. So neither one of those terribly liquid at 43 DTE on these odd strikes. Maybe the $10 strike. No, it's still not that much more popular. Well, there's 1,000 here, a couple thousand. There's way more liquidity on this $10 at 43 DTE. Bid-ask spread still sucks, but there's tons of bids and asks, so you will get a fill at some price. You know, probably pretty close to 142. You'll get a fill. Still not a whole lot of volume or open interest, but it's still tradable. Long story short, he might not be able to afford to roll this Riot put up for a credit if he doesn't have the buying power, which I don't think he does. But that's a good problem to have. It means we've been winning these trades. But if you had your heart set on trading Riot and you didn't have more buying power, you could get priced out. So keep that in mind. So we may have to pivot to CLSK or ASST or something else. All right, whole lot of nothing in this account, unless my brother-in-law and I move this Riot put for more monies. Like we had this on less than a week, I think. 4-7. Yeah, it's just 2 days. It's already ready to roll. And wasn't Riot one of the ones that sold some Bitcoin? Like, why are they pumping? Why the hell is Riot pumping? Whatever. I don't really care. All right. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be good, y'all.